Welcome to the knife cuts video where we're going to show you all of the knife cuts that you need to know for Culinary 1. And this is also the knife cuts required for our mezze platter with hummus. So we're going to be filling out this worksheet here, and all the knife cuts I'm doing are going to be precisely line up with this worksheet. And we're going to start with a julienne. The worksheet in this recipe calls for jicama. When I went to the store, they didn't have jicama, so I am using an apple, and I'm showing you how to hold the knife correctly. Remember, you want to use a claw hand, and then what I'm doing here is squaring off my apple slice. It's a little rounded, so I want to make it square. This makes it more stable, and it gives me some cleaner, more even cuts. And so I cut this 2 inches long by 1/8 of an inch thick. So I made those 1/8 inch slices, and I'm going back and I'm cutting 1/8 of an inch again. And this allows me to make a whole bunch of julienne cuts. And you have to be kind of careful with this one. It gets kind of slippery sometimes depending what you're cutting it with. I know the apple got a little slippery. And it can get kind of hard to hold with your knuckles sometimes, but that's how you do a julienne. And then from the julienne, that turns into a brunoise, and that's, you just cut off one of those for the brunoise. Now we're going to do a bâtonnet, which turns into a small dice. And this one is basically the same, but instead of 1/8 of an inch, we're doing 1/4 of an inch. So carrot is very round, so I need to make it more squared off, so I get an even shape and it's more stable. And I'm using my knuckles to hold the carrot in place, and I don't cut my fingers or anything. Carrot can be kind of hard, especially that first cut, because it is so round and rolly, so you have to be really careful. But as you can see, it's much more squared off now. And I'm going to cut this into 1/4 inch sticks, which is my bâtonnet. And then from there, just to show you how efficient this can be, I can get all of these even slices here. If I were to just keep cutting that, I get a whole bunch of a small dice. But for this assignment, you're not going to do that. You're just going to cut one, because it's easier to eat hummus with sticks than it is with diced. Now we're going to move into a medium matchstick, which goes into a medium dice, and this one is a 2 by 3/4 inch. So we went from 1/8 to 1/4, and now we're in a 3/4 inch. And the cucumber is an easy one to do this on, just because it kind of naturally is a little bit bigger than the carrot, so I just have to 1/4 it. If you want to be really exact, which in this class we will have you practice that so you can know what it looks like, you would use a ruler. But this one is my favorite for size for eating hummus and using for dips and stuff. But yeah, you'll just cut off one for your worksheet. The diagonal slice, I'm demonstrating on 2 different vegetables. A cucumber first, because it just shows you how a diagonal slice works. We get a lot more surface area there, and it works really well with a cucumber, but that's not necessary for this assignment. What I have for the recipe is a radish. So because a radish, especially the one I'm using here, is pretty round, a diagonal slice doesn't make that big of a difference because it's so round. But just to help you see how to do a diagonal, it's a 45-degree cut. This is a chiffonade, and we're going to use spinach for this one. It works, I most often see chiffonade with basil, but spinach is cheap and readily accessible. But yeah, you just roll it up, you stack them on top of each other, roll it up, and you make very, very thin slices. And a chiffonade just looks really pretty, and especially the herbs can be really functional when you don't want a big bite of an herb. You can cut it very thinly and nicely like that. Finally, this is just how you're going to arrange the vegetables on your worksheet. You'll put your brunoise and your small and medium dice next to each other, and then you can lay out your julienne, your bâtonnet, and your medium matchstick. I am just trimming mine up so that it's 2 inches. You don't have to do that to all of them if you don't want to. Just enough for this worksheet, and I can see that you know what size those are supposed to be. And then the diagonal, it's kind of hard to stand it up, so you can just lay it out like that. I do have the cucumber here, but you probably won't have your cucumber like that. You'll just use the radish, and then you can put your chiffonade down and you're done.